Well, let's do a water hierarchy and talk about from nature and interventions the best we can start with for our drinking water and then all the way down from there.
I mean, the best water is a pure spring that the water emerges from the earth on its own power. And as it comes up, this is in a way so called primary water. It turns out new water is being made all the time, contrary to what we're told. Water is a renewable resource, as is basically oil and gas. We're not told that. We say it's a finite fuel made from fossils. It's not made from fossils and it's renewable. That's a whole nother subject. Um, Same with water. And when it comes up on its own, it's ripe and for drinking and using, and it comes up in a spiral formation, and then sometimes it flows in streams, in spirals, and it dissolves the rocks, so it has all these minerals in it, and it's highly charged. And that's the water you find at places like Lourdes. It always comes up on its own power, and it's highly charged. You can test it with meters and things. And then you have lower grades which don't come up on their own, like a well, or the town collects water and then they put all sorts of chemicals in it, and that's lesser grade water. I don't know about hierarchies. It's just none of that's the best. And at that kind of water, you have to at least charge, and that may be enough, but sometimes you have to get rid of the poisons in it. And so there's various ways of doing that, filters and RO, and distill it. Then you put the minerals back, and then you flow it in vortexes over magnets or with stir it or something like that. You have to get the charge back. That's the most important part.
Okay, naturally from the spring where it comes up on its own, number one. Number two would be forced from the ground through like a well. Then it sounds like, which is going to be the most likely case for a lot of people, at least starting before they have a chance to find a spring and get into that whole.
You'd be amazed. Almost everywhere there's springs that the old people know about.
Okay, while they're doing the research and figuring that out, let's get into the details of somebody using distilled or RO. And you shared this, but I really want to make sure we get into what minerals, what device you'd use to vortex. Let's go right through the steps. Starting with at the top, would you pick distilled or RO if you were getting water in a city?
What I do is we have town water into our house, and so every week I go and collect from a spring that does what I just said. And then I stir it with an analemma wand, which is basically charged water, or I vortex it through something called an MEA water device, which creates a vortex and it creates electromagnetic field and charges them. They're both doing the similar thing, charging otherwise pure spring water. Now, with the water that comes into the house, we put it through a pretty extensive carbon filter to get rid of everything. It doesn't get rid of fluoride, but we don't have fluoride in our water. And then it goes through a spiral copper pipe, and that energizes the water. And then the water comes out in the bath or in the tub, and sometime or in the sink. And then I put some basically sea salt in it, and I typically use something called purple bamboo salt, which is sea salt that has been burned in bamboo shoots for 9 times. And that mineralizes the water. And then I put it through either this analemma water wand or MEA water vortexing thing. And now I appreciate that not everybody will want to do all that, but I'm retired and I don't have anything to do except garden and mess around with water, so that's what I do.
So those first two steps, where you're filtering with carbon and then putting it through the copper pipe, it sounded like, is that through the whole house?
Yes,
Okay,
and the garden.
got it. And then the next step is the salt. Will you only use that if it's town water, or will you put that in your spring water too?
No, I don't put that in. Spring water, I don't do anything except stir it or vortex it. And that water then goes through, like the showers. We have these shower heads, which are 6 different crystal vortexing tubes that create a suction just like the heart. In fact, he modeled it after the heart. And so there's one of the, one of them is a ruby and an emerald and quartz and other things. And that creates like a rainfall effect. So all of our showers and all of the water we water the garden comes from the town, filtered copper tube out with a shower head that makes this spiral formation.
And what's the brand of that shower head?
It's called Aquadea. We sell it on our website. It's a German guy who looked at this whole thing and created this model of how and you can feel when the water comes out, it suctions you can feel the suction, so it pulls your hand against the shower head.
And is that something you have to change every 6 months and you get rid of the whole thing, or?
Once, you never change it again.
Okay. And then the salt is added. What brand is that special purple bamboo salt?
I mean, I use one called Insan, and there's also one called Pryor, I think is the name of it. But I use Redmond salt and Celtic salt and Himalayan salt and Hawaiian potassium salt. I use different salts. I think, in fact, I have probably 8 or 10 different salts, and I think you should use different ones regularly just because they have a different mineral composition.
And as you share, it's obvious you're not fearing salt. How do you determine how much you're using? Is it just to taste?
Yeah, just taste.
And then what about how much water to drink on a daily basis? We have this societal norm of something around 8 glasses a day where we're bringing bottles with us and sipping on them throughout the day, making sure we get that 8 glasses. There's different people saying different things, but in that range, how do you look at amount of water we should be drinking?
The reality is, and if you look at normal biochemistry, 99% of it's total BS. But they do talk about like the Krebs cycle, right? Glucose and goes through all these different steps. And the end result is ATP, which they say is energy, which isn't, but they say that it is, and water and carbon dioxide. So in other words, we're told that we generate water from the metabolism of food, right? That's what we're told. And when you put something through a fatty acid metabolism, you generate a lot of water, which means we're always generating water in our body. And that's our water. That has our signature. It has our energetic blueprint. So I think that's the best water for us. So I don't drink much water. I drink a glass of water with lemon juice in the morning. And then typically I don't drink much water after that. Now it's really hot here and sweaty. And so I drink things like beet kvass, where I ferment beets and put some salt in it. We make water kefir, and so I drink that. And my wife makes ales based with our own herbs that she ferments. So I definitely drink that. But I don't drink plain water otherwise.
Okay, so on a typical day, 1 glass in the morning with lemon. What is happening when people are trying to get, say, 8 glasses a day and they're bringing those Stanley bottles with them throughout the day and sipping on it constantly. Obviously, you're not doing that. There's a reason. Why is that?
So let's say you have a faulty pump in your basement, right? And then you want to circulate the water through your house, right? And the pump is getting old and you don't have that much money, so it's leaking a little bit. And so the pressure in your shower is a little weak. You with me?
Yep.
So what would happen if you added twice the amount of water to the system, especially at the pump?
It would overwhelm it.
And then what would happen?
It would break.
And leak, right?
Yep.
And it would make it even harder to pump the water, right?
Yeah, more work for it to do.
Yeah, it's too heavy. It's got all this water in it. So most people have faulty pumps, the pump being the structured water, because they never connect with the earth and the sun and love and et cetera. And so they think they're dehydrated. So they add more water to their pump, and that makes it harder to circulate. And then they say, oh, I feel even worse. I must need to drink even more. And the next thing you know, they have swelling in their ankles because the water is now impossible for their body to circulate. So it just falls down to the lowest place, and that's called edema. And they feel tired and sluggish and nothing works right. And then the health people tell them to drink more water and it gets worse. And they wonder what's the problem. So that's what happens to people who drink a lot of water.
Okay, so again, on a typical day, you're having 1 cup of water.
By the way, if you're thirsty, then you should drink water. That's how you know. And you should drink water with some salts in it.
Well, that's where I was going next. Your typical 1 glass of water a day with lemon. When do you take in electrolytes?
I eat salt with every food I eat. And if it's really hot, like it has been, maybe once or twice in the day, I'll put a half a teaspoon of like bamboo salt in a glass of water with some lemon in it and drink that.
Say you're out traveling, you don't have access to your regular spring water or the water you're filtering at home. What brands do you rely on in that case?
In that case, I use a Flaska water bottle, which, by the way, we also sell. But the reason is it's a bottle that has inscriptions on it, and it's based on the sacred geometry, and just the geometry and the form of the bottle structures the water on the inside. So I get whatever water I can in glass bottles. I try to never use water in plastic bottles because it dissolves that. And I put that in the Flaska bottle, and that will structure it for me. I have a very interesting story about the Flaska bottle, which I've read the research and you can see how it structures the water. But I had a friend who lives near me, and she bought Flaska. They're basically glass bottles, and she bought one for her and her son and her husband. And after a month or so, she came to me and said, Tom, the water in my Flaska bottle has black gunk floating around in it. And I thought, not my husband or my son. And I thought, well, that's weird. It must be something in the water bottle, that's leaching off into the water. So I took the water bottle and tried it myself, and I gave her a new water bottle. And it didn't make the black gunk for me, and it did with the water bottle that I had been using that never made black gunk. And then we tried it with another one. Now, one of the principles of structured water is, and the reason Gerald Pollack calls it easy water, exclusion zone water, is that when you form a gel, it pushes out things that are not supposed to be in the water. So that's why it's exclusion zone. So I about a month later, she ended up getting diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And my take on it was there was something in her, she would like use the drink out of the water bottle straight. And so there was some of her that was getting in the water bottle, and that was causing the water in the water bottle to be structured and push out some black, yuck, toxic stuff that was unique to her, because those same water bottles and my water bottle didn't do it to me or her husband or her son. And that told me this water bottle is probably the best diagnostic tool you can imagine. Because if it's pushing out black gunk, there's something wrong.
Interesting. Have you heard that with any other people?
I have asked people and nobody else has seen that. And I'm on the lookout for somebody who wants to try it.
And this lady that had cancer, was she okay in the end?
Let's just say no.
Sorry to hear.
Yeah, but it was a amazing story of, and of course, I don't know that that's what really happened. I'm speculating, but I ended up getting renewed respect for the power of water and the power of putting water in its right form and its right geometry and its right energetic environment. What you can find from that. And for people who are interested in that, I would check out the work of Veda Austin, who's done a lot of work on messages from water and what water can tell us. And basically, our memory is in water and consciousness is in water, and water is sort of everything.
Given the importance of water and what you know, any other modalities that you found are helpful? Putting your water under moonlight, other sacred geometry, using trace minerals, other supplements, ways we can condition that water to make it more powerful?
Nothing I can say for sure. I've seen a lot of those in sunlight and blue bottles, and I think it's great for people to experiment. I think also having a relationship with the water, and I actually thank the water in my body every day for keeping me going and keeping me alive and keeping me healthy and clean. So I think the more we can do to create a relationship with our water inside us and outside us, the better. But I don't know anything that I can say, do this. I've seen the research on the water wand that we use called an analemma wand, and I've seen the research on meawater.com, the way they do it. And it's pretty profound stuff. The research that I pay attention to is you water plants with normal water or this water and see what happens. Or you feed animals, etc. Not biochemical pathways and stuff like that. I don't care about that stuff.
I know at least at one point you were a fan of the Aphora water. Are you still?
I think they're working on it. I think that it's not perfect, though.
Can you say
But
why?
we do have an Aphora water device, and I use that.
Okay. Can you say what they need to perfect there?
Anything besides water that comes out on its own is not perfect. So anytime you're cleaning the water, etc., there's compromises.
And what about carbonated water? I know most times that's something that's done to that water afterwards in processing. How do you feel about that?
So I make carbonated water. It's called water kefir. And basically I put water kefir grains in water with lemons, sliced lemons, and it becomes carbonated. And so I like that. Whether it's good for me or not, I don't know. But I like it, and I would be loath to not drink that kind of my fizzy water kefir.
When it comes to water, we've talked about drinking water. We have water we're going to get through food. You mentioned the body making water. I just want to understand the physiology there. because we also can charge our water before we take it in the end, is all the structured water in our body, whether it be from drinking, from food, does that, and I assume it would have to, go through our system and be processed in a way to make that structured water? And if so, where does it happen?
It happens, that's called life. You're an energetic field, and your energy takes in whatever water you're drinking or whatever water you're making. It charges it and somehow distributes it to where it needs to go. And how that happens, I have no idea.
I didn't know if it was specifically the mitochondria in energy production making that water or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch the full episode. I'll see you over there.
Nobody has liver attacks, kidney attacks. They have heart attacks and brain attacks called strokes. No other organ has attacks, even though the blood is the same and the arteries are the same, which led me to think it's got to do with...